Gamanjavat everyone, welcome to my second episode since restoring my podcast. I have here Irakli from IBCCS. It's Samuela Davidova here. I moved to Georgia to the country in 2020 and since then I haven't looked back. I love to live here. And Irakli, I want to consult you today. I want to ask you questions from position of, say, business owner. If I wanted to start LLC in Georgia or overall optimize my taxes and maybe remotely, for people who are not living here and could use Georgia as the location for diversification and for optimization, let's not just tax optimization, but overall optimization and diversification, because you're specializing on taxes, accounting, or not only you, but the whole team that is here in your office. And you have offices in different countries, which is what I like about you. I like that you really understand the law here and that you are very quick to share the updates also on your website and socials on what's going on in Georgia, despite there are not so many changes, honestly, when I compare it to the European bureaucratic hell. Georgia is very low bureaucratic. It's one of the top countries for starting a business, for no BS and for simplicity, but it's not so simple. Like it's still you may want to see someone like Irakli, and I really like your approach. You're focused on a lot of international clients. Most of your clients are international. You have offices here in Georgia, in Estonia, in Cyprus, newly in Tashkent, and well, maybe you tell me more.
Yeah.
But so today I want to cover. For whom Georgia would be cool to start LLC, what may be some good use cases and how does it work, what should I be aware of, and when can someone benefit from it remotely, like you? What may be some other locations where you're based and better? And then I want to talk about, because there were some recent updates in the Georgian law. So like maybe if you consider rather to move in and maybe start individual entrepreneurship, maybe you heard that I pay my 1% tax, and it's really cool, but there have been some changes now. And so we will talk about that as well. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for remembering about us and coming us to have this interview, because it's kind of, for us, the daily work with meeting with the clients and having this consultation. So it will be like for us an amazing option to cut.
Sorry, we have here such a beautiful colleague, guys, but she will have to. Okay. Hello. Let's go. Let's continue.
Let's continue. So one of the questions you started with was what you have to be taking a good care of, or being like a more get more attention to. I would start toward from the cuisine. Because everyone comes to Georgia, it starts like gaining extra kgs. So first things first, this is how we start our consultations. And no matter how attractive, how beautiful, how interesting it might sound, please everyone find some weekend or time to visit Georgia and experience everything by yourself. Because not everything is going towards taxes or optimization of the businesses. It's always personal. If you do not like the environment, if you do not like the people or the cuisine or the wine, which
this is irony.
Yeah, this is irony. Then Georgia might not be the place for you. But I started from this because the kitchen, the people, and the cuisine. This is the first things which they admire in Georgia, coming to Georgia. Starting from the company of IBCCS, it started from 2014 from Cyprus, and now we are having the offices our own offices with our own staff, with our own culture in Cyprus, Limassol, in Tbilisi and Batumi, Georgia, in Dubai, UAE, and we recently opened our new office in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Our mission is to help individuals and companies to optimize their activities, whether it's personal activities like a personal relocation or optimization, personal living styles, or the corporate life. So that's why we have indoor tax advisors, indoor accounting office, indoor legal department, and administration and business development consultations as well. So we combined all together. And if you ask me what the value of ours is, that if anyone is asking questions about taxes or accounting or legal, we are combining all together, and they always have some, you know, correlations between legal tax and accounting.
Yeah.
So we are combining all this together, and this client doesn't have to go to some other locations to summarize all the consultations or information together. I would start from the beginning, because you mentioned that you came to Georgia in 2020. That time was already already rebuilding the new country, new Georgia and economy. We have implemented so-called Estonian model of taxation, and I always start from this point, because majority of the people, especially from European Union, they don't understand what is the difference from that, because usually the logic of the business works that you have to increase the costs until end of the year to show as less profit as possible, to pay as less taxes at the end of the year as possible. But in Georgia, this logic doesn't work at all, because it doesn't really matter how much money you have at the end of the year, because you do not pay any corporate taxes until the time you distribute the dividend. And now we are talking about the standard LLC without any exemptions or any tax benefits, right? So this is already one big wow, which usually comes to my consultations. Later, you mentioned the individual entrepreneurship.
Maybe we stay with the Estonian tax thing. Is there any limit after some kind of time after which you can distribute the dividends, or this is not limited? You can distribute them.
That's the funny part, because as soon as in Georgia there is no profit tax and corporate income tax, because in Georgia we call it profit tax, you can basically distribute dividends monthly as a salary, if the company is profitable, of course, because from the books you have to have the profit to distribute the dividends, and you can do it like twice per month. There is no limit. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. What the good thing is that opposite, because especially for the startups or those who are expanding or making some new tests or experiments for the business activities, first of all, in Georgia, they do not need a shared capital to start the business. They can mention million in the memorandum or the charter, but there is no obligation that they have to put this money on the bank account of the company. And they can basically start the company activities from whatever money they have, right? And later on, the pressure of the taxation does not fall on the company, because if you are keeping the money in the company for reinvestment, the operation, the growth of the business or whatever, the taxes are not applied to this money. The taxes applies to the money when you want to take this money out to your pocket, either as a salary or as a dividend if you are a shareholder, right? So I always advise to those companies who want to have an operational entity who will accumulate the income and keep this money for reinvestment in operations. Georgia might be one of the best location in the world, because this is not the economical zone of European Union, it's outside, but mentally and culturally we are European Union. It is not perceived.
I would say not European Union, but European. Georgia is very European, but it's totally not European.
Yeah, totally agree for that. And what I wanted to say, that we are European by mentally and culturally, and managing this business and company and the team from this perspective, even within the European Union, becomes effective. Cost effective, team effective, or more optimized and much more faster as well. You have to also consider that we have a 2 hours difference from the Central Europe, which also makes it effective to manage the teams from Georgia and or making all the operations from Georgia. We will go deeper into the operations later on, but as I said, having a standard LLC, it's already becoming beneficial. Let's go deeper. In Georgia, besides the standard LLC, there are special exemptions for IT companies, and there are 2 licenses I will be mentioning. And there is a special regulation for logistic companies or warehousing, and there is also a special regime for maritime businesses as well.
I think the IT is the most interesting.
Absolutely. I would focus, when I'm having the consultation sessions, I'm always saying that for business activities and for investment opportunities, Georgia is having the 5 major fields which might be interesting to execute an opportunities from Georgia. First is an outsourcing services, and IT falls definitely here because we will talk about that. Agriculture is also very interesting because we have plenty of plots and the water, which is also very important. And we have geographical location, which means that the logistic and the transportation is becoming more and more attractive, especially the new changes with the middle corridor and whatever is happening in the world. Georgia is becoming more and more valuable in the world trading in general. Renewable energy, it's becoming a very interesting, especially because of a geographical location as well, because Georgia is becoming to be an exporter of the energy at some point.
And I would mention here that Georgia is very neutral, and you can feel it. Like, you can see that there are different countries investing in, and it's very, very diversified, which makes me first feel safe and more like, it's safe, yeah. Like, the thing is, when you see that there's money inflow like from all the directions, be it Saudi, Chinese, Central Asian, European, American, maybe some Russian, Ukrainian too though, but there are not only people moving in, it's so international here, but from the money invested here, Emirati, oh my god, of course. So it's just so diversified. This is really cool.
I would even mention that where you would find a city where you can find a mosque, a synagogue, an Orthodox church and the Gregorian church in one neighborhood.
Okay.
And it's in Tbilisi, in an old town. All this cultural wise, we are very open-minded, I would say. And the fifth one, which I wanted to also mention as an opportunity, is the tourism-related businesses and the real estate in general, which also gives the opportunity for the residency permits in Georgia, which is also very easy, and we can talk about that later. About the IT companies and IT activities, as I mentioned, in Georgia we have 3 licenses, which is issued by the Ministry of Economy, and it is not the free zone type of licenses, which are issued by LLC, which is a separate project at all. First called IT Virtual Zone Certificate, which exempts the companies from the profit tax fully. So when they decide to distribute the dividend, let's make an example. After running the company for, 50, 100 years, you have accumulated €1 million on your bank account. Until that time, you have not paid any taxes, right? After 100 years, most probably you decided to distribute the dividend and take €1,000 as a dividend only. The taxes will apply to this 1,000 only, and the remaining money will stay untouched and untaxed. This €1,000 will tax with 15% profit tax as a standard LLC, and later the already declared profit will be taxed with 5% dividend tax as a Georgian tax resident. For example, if you are acting as a Cyprus tax resident, because of double tax treaty agreement between Cyprus and Georgia, you might be paying 0. So that can be also structured in terms of personal tax residencies.
Even with the profit tax you mentioned first?
First is the profit tax, which is 15%, and then is the dividend withholding tax, which is a personal taxation,
that's based on your tax
residency, right? But when we talked about this IT Virtual Zone Certificate, it exempts from this 15%, and when you distribute the dividend, whatever amount you declare as a profit, you do not pay 15%, and you might pay the withholding tax only. And as I said, if you're acting as a Cyprus tax resident, as an example, you might pay 0 withholding tax as well, which means that you are legally having a totally 0 taxation entity and operational for IT activities, right?
I'm curious. Can I use the IT Virtual Zone, is it called?
Yes.
IT Virtual Zone type of LLC if I am not based here? And how, because I recall there were some particular conditions and clarifications on that?
There is only one requirement, that LLC should be registered in Georgia, and the company and the team developing the IT services should be based in Georgia, majority at least, and all the clients should be outside the country. I will explain you the logic of that. The country itself does not have any natural resources to generate the economy or to boost the economy. So only resources we are having, this is a geographical location and the people we have here, right? So to execute these resources in the way, we said that we have to just import the technology and the knowledge and know-how and make the location and the country boost the economy to export those services outside the country. So this logic of this tax benefit is that to bring the operations in the country to sell it outside the country, right? As soon as this is exported services, the VAT will not apply to the services as well, so it's becoming more and more attractive. I would add another tax benefit. It's called international company license. It's similar to international IT virtual zone certificate. The requirement is the same. The company should be in Georgia. As you mentioned, the shareholders might not live here at all, but the team working or developing the services should be the core working from Georgia and selling it outside the country. International company license gives the additional benefit to the team as well. So in comparison to virtual zone certificate, profit tax would be 5%. Dividend withholding tax might be zero, go down to zero. But what is the beauty of international company license is that for all the employees working for this company, instead of 20% personal income tax for all the salaries, you would pay 5%.
Wow, that's very good.
Yeah, so just to have the comparison for the listeners or for potential clients, if you are having more than 5 employees potentially working for this IT company, we would always advise to go for international company. But if it is less than 5 employees, then most probably virtual zone certificate might be attractive.
I have a question related to in which cases of use cases like having a business, what one can do with these in these particular cases. When it's IT virtual zone, is it just software development?
In both of the cases, it should be coding and developing software. It cannot be digital marketing, for example. It has to be include some kind of coding or software development. It can also be an algorithm development which will be implemented in some softwares, but it has to involve like IT specialists working or technology or know-how. By the way, I will also mention that the Georgia is part of WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, and you can register the whatever codes or trademarks or intellectual properties in Georgia, which automatically will be protected through the World Intellectual Property Organization. So that's also like good to mention that if someone is bringing the technology or IP here, then they can be protected worldwide as well. In regards to the third tax advantage, I would also mention that in Georgia there is an agency, IT Park, working, and they have implemented the new tax benefit for the users of their programs. If they have granted you for some funds for some project operations, then the Ministry of Economy might give you some tax advantage for research and development entities. This is a separate topic, a very big one and very sensitive, so I would not go into the deeps. Let's focus only on virtual zone or international company, because majority of the clients or potential investors who are working or having idea to come to Georgia, enter the market or use the jurisdiction, I would consider to offer these two options.
Makes sense, totally. Interesting. And I recall maybe what you just mentioned, is this tied to, there was some kind of startup taxation change or?
No, look, startup taxation, for all the startups, Georgia is already having a very big benefit of come to Georgia with no shared capital and start operation without this pressure of the taxation. So for startup environment, it's already there. The only thing what is changed is from the perspective of the teams or expats or employees who are I'd say, coming to Georgia to being employed, because in Georgia the new regulations comes from the working permits.
We will talk about it, but like what are the conditions? Say I want to start a startup, I want to start a startup in Georgia. What would be the conditions?
First of all, you have to type the IBCCS.tax and contact us to help you in that
and
direction.
Irakli solves it for you.
No, forget. I mean, it's very easy. Forget about sales pitch. It's so much easy that you can do it by yourself if you can take the legal risks and the tax risks from the very beginning. I mean, I don't want to push or ask or tell anyone that you definitely have to have a lawyer from the very day one. It's highly recommended. It's very recommended because later fixing the mistakes from the beginning is more costly and difficult rather than doing it from the beginning. But to be honest, in Georgia, you can register the company in 1 working day. Or in 1 hour as well, because if you pay extra officially to the official sources, and you just need the legal address, you need the bilingual, in international case, charter, and the resolution. And all the shareholders should be presented, and the director should be presented. If they are not presented, you can do it through the power of attorney. In our case, we have had the cases where the shareholders were not in the country and we registered the company totally, fully remote. This is also possible.
Yes. This is great. And well, I also agree with this. Georgia is really straightforward, but then I wouldn't like to, like at the very least, I would love to have a consulting, like to understand what to do. Okay, I want to start a startup. In Georgia, register it in Georgia. What tax benefit I have? Shortly.
First of all, before moving to the taxes, I want to mention that Georgia, because of the location, because of the size, is very cheap for the mistakes. And this is a very big thing for the startups. Because for experimenting and for making some mistakes, costly mistakes, instead of doing it in a costly environment, making it in Georgia makes it much more cheaper. If you are a startup, basically there is no any other exemptions rather than not paying any taxes until you distribute the dividends. So this is the biggest thing for the startups, and not having the capital for that. And banks, I have to mention, opening the bank account in Georgia is still very much possible rather than comparing to any European states or any European countries. So having an operational international bank account, this is also a good plus. Plus, Georgian banks are very user-friendly and very modern in terms of e-commerce and international operations. So this might be also a good benefit for startups, and if you are a startup, and why it might be beneficial to open the company in Georgia and not in any other European country, I would say.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So I think that we covered the most LLCs that one can actually use remotely that would make sense, while also using the benefits of hiring from Georgia because it's cheaper, and to have the office here and to benefit from up to 0% taxation, which is just great. But Georgia at the same time doesn't want to show off themselves as offshore.
We are not, because legally saying for being declared as an offshore, there are some requirements should be done, which Georgia does not apply, which means that
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, because Georgia, we have to mention that Georgia is not listed in any listings in the world organizations or bankings, so it's absolutely transparent, legal. The taxes are above 15%. The UBO register or shareholders register is public, though you still can have the trust agreements done. So there are things which clarifies that Georgia is not an offshore or any kind of gray zone jurisdiction. It's absolutely legal, open, and business-wise very good to use.
This is really good. It's a great fact. Maybe the very last question on LLC.
Yes.
Are there any special economic zones?
Yes, and this is very good to mention, because in the internet there are plenty of information in regards to free industrial zone, and I have underlined this because if you are not having an industrial activities, the free industrial zone benefit, which is zero taxation on anything, will not apply.
Okay, so just industrial stuff.
It has to be industrial activities or any kind of attachment or any kind of processing of the goods or products to get classified as an industrial activity, and you have to have the office and operations within the free zone territory. For example, a consulting firm or a marketing agency cannot be classified as a free zone, but at some point there were plenty of companies registered in the free zones with the idea that they might get zero taxation regimes, but it doesn't work.
Yeah. Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's a very particular use case. Nice. Okay, let's move to the, say I am the individual as I am.
You are.
And then I may do some marketing services, and I will then go and maybe benefit from individual entrepreneur status here.
Yes.
Where myself I pay 1% tax up to 3 million lari yearly. 300,000. Okay, sorry. But it's quite a lot, like it's sufficient like when you're starting out, I would say. And then I pay this tax even for the costs I may have, but it doesn't really matter because the tax is just so low, oh my god. That,
let's clarify.
Yes.
As an individual entrepreneur, you are legally, you are not an entity. You are an individual who is having a business activity, and you personally are responsible for all potential risks with your personal assets as an individual entrepreneur. And there is a limitation. This is 500,000 lari, a limit per year, which should be the turnover of the individual entrepreneur's business activity, right? Besides these 500,000 laris, there is also one threshold, is 100,000 lari, which is a threshold of VAT.
Yeah.
And it is not only for individual entrepreneurs, but it applies to LLC as well, which means that if you are having a local operations and local turnover, after 100,000 lari turnover, you are obliged to become a VAT payers and add 18% VAT on the services and invoices.
And if I do not have any local clients?
Exported services does not include in a local operation, so export is exempt from the VAT, so it does not count in the threshold as well. So that's why accounting doing by the tax advisors is a beneficial rather than only registering the turnover and processes, right? That's the difference of that.
I understand.
But you have a good friend like me, so we can have a separate talk about that. What I want also to mention is that individual entrepreneurs, it's very easy to register in Georgia as well as an individual entrepreneur to that part. The new regulations we have done in Georgia is that getting the working permits, because the immigration agency of Georgia decided to, for the reason of statistics, for the reason of regulating the market, for many reasons, they have decided to have the tracking on the immigrations for the professionals, experts from various fields, right?
Maybe let me interrupt you here.
Please.
Just for some context, guys. When you come to Georgia, you can stay here for up to 1 year without any visa. 1 year. Then you cross
the majority of the citizens,
for 100 nations. Well, that's quite a lot. And then you can cross the border and come back for another year, and you can stay here. And what was happening here is that you could work here. You can just go to governmental office, one building, and start your individual entrepreneurship, like freelance license, basically, for yourself. It's also very easy. You can do it yourself if you get all the documents, or you can get help with IBCCS. It doesn't matter, up to you. Like whatever, how much you like the bureaucracy, it's fine. It's fine. And then you register at Revenue Service, which is local governmental financial institution, and you can start paying your 1% tax now right away. Well, anyway, and the thing is that you didn't need to have any work visa, work permit. You just have to be legally presented in Georgia, like you have to enter Georgia legally. However, Georgia was honestly, like, I think one of the very few countries in the world where you didn't need to have any work permit, work visa, anything, just to start working here as a freelancer as well, and to benefit from 1% tax, which is like, it's insane. This is very, very unique. And it was very unique. And now Georgian authorities introduced this work permit, but honestly, no big drama. Like when I compare it to any other country, that's totally fine. However, indeed, now when I want to start working in Georgia, first I need to request this work permit.
Yes. This request goes to several agencies. First, it goes to the Ministry of the Ministry of Health, which is controlling the agency of immigrations. First, they have to give you the working permission according to the Georgian employment market, how it is, how your profession is implemented in the economy in general, and then as soon as they give you permission, you have to go to this. So already mentioned Public Service Hall, which is this one government place for everything, and register and get the working permit. One thing I want to mention in terms of individual entrepreneurship, because not a lot of people understand that, and this is a new changes in terms of individual entrepreneurs as well. Before that, to get this 1% taxation regime was a step of two activities. First, when you go to the Public Service Hall and you register yourself as an individual entrepreneur, you would be paying standard 20% income tax turnover or whatever money you received. Because for getting this 1%, you were obliged to go and apply for the small business status, which would be activated a month after, from the next month. After the new changes, the status will be activating from the same months. So this is the good thing, that if you decide to be a freelancer working from Georgia, you can apply for individual entrepreneurship, get the status for 1% taxation, and being taxed from the first months. This is a good changes.
However, yet the work permit I've been applying to is not so terrible, honestly, but they were asking me for my CV, and I don't know what to answer. If you know me, you quite understand. It's quite confusing. What should I say? Like, I do quite a lot of things.
You have to just underline this Samuela, that's it.
Yeah, I'm Samuela Davidova. Nice to meet you guys. Anyway, so it's quite straightforward. I filled it out, and I was if you're helping with that, I understand, because still you have to request their proving how much you got from in the last months. However, that's the thing. I'm just moving to Georgia, and this is a very big thing that people do not know how to handle. I'm just moving to Georgia, and I need to have a work permit. However, the requirement for after I get a work permit within 30 days, that's a standard rate. After that, I'm obliged within 10 days to go to Public Service Hall, which is just one, we call it like mushroom building. It looks like a mushroom. So there's one single governmental entity pretty much that you need to get wedding, to get
death certificate, divorce, company registration, liquidation, all the government services under one roof. Yes.
Georgia is very unique in this. So it's quite straightforward. But you have to go to request for residency card to have a little new document. Beautiful. But then to get a residency card, you need to have at least 50,000 Georgian lari that you already processed sort of as your individual entrepreneur or business entity, doesn't matter, but per one person working in the company. If you want to apply for residency card based on the work conditions, another way, as you already slightly mentioned, is like you can get a real estate here and then apply for residency card based on a real estate. However, let's consider that there's this, I want to apply for residency based on my work activities. So this was a question in the law because they haven't really addressed it. What did you do about that?
We are working in line with the agency, and we have signed it with that because we have many other questions, because you have to understand that they have implemented this law recently, and there are some questions, especially for the operations. There are even mentioned some websites which are not even implemented yet, and that they're totally new website where you have to go through all these processes. So we are working in line with all the agencies and all the government organizations to process everything in the best possible way. Because why clients are coming to us? Not because, as you mentioned, it's very easy by itself as well, but not to be lost in all the bureaucracy. Because it's not about lost in the existing bureaucracy, but the agencies does not know how it works as well. And our main role here is to find all the possible ways, gaps, and the client pays us not to be worried.
Yeah.
So we are doing all the fill-ups, all the fillings, all the communication, contacts, and we are just booking everything, and the client goes there and things are done. In terms of these questions, we are waiting for the official answers and for many other questions, and we will be updating and posting it on our social media and our website as a newsletter. Cool. So please follow us on our social media and websites, and get subscribed to the newsletters, because there are many interesting things or changes, whatever will be happening in the country. We'll be definitely publishing them there.
That's really cool. But this is really unique as well. So there are two
like
things.
Everything in Georgia.
Yeah. This is very interesting from international perspective. Like when I look at the other markets. So first of all, the fact that Georgian government, whatever, like Georgian governmental entities, are introducing a new law. First, they introduce the law, and then they're also introducing sort of explanations to explain how they understand the law themselves. And what they expect. Yes. But wow, it's like the law here is clear. First, you can read a text code of Georgia yourself in like one night. I did it myself, and this is quite shocking because you cannot read the text law of most countries in the world ever in your life. So it's very clear. And second, there are explanations on how exactly, such as we were talking about explanation to the IT companies, right? How does it actually apply and how does it not apply? So this is one thing. And second thing is that IBCCS as a private entity can actually contact the government here and ask for explanations of the law, and will get them.
Yes, and it will have the value of the law itself, because a letter received from the authorities has the same value as the law, so we can use it for the benefit of our clients. And in terms of the text code, I would also mention that not every country have this as a benefit, because I'm usually asked how protected is the text code itself. Because, for example, if at some point government will decide to change the text code, and this question is like very easy for me to answer, because in Georgia, text code is protected by the constitution. So if any government anytime will decide to change the text code, they have to have the referendum. And you already living in Georgia and knowing the Georgians, they would never vote for increasing the taxes.
Yes. Yeah. Let me rephrase it.
Yes.
In Georgia, if the government wanted to increase the taxes, they would have to make a referendum and people would have to vote to increase the taxes.
Which is like, I don't know, genre of sci-fi.
It's so beautiful. I pay 1% tax in Georgia. If you ask random Georgian on the street how they like the taxes in Georgia, they will tell you they're so high.
They would definitely say that, and especially for that in Georgia we do not have the understanding of the personal taxation as well, because especially for those who are interested of employing the Georgians, you have to understand that when you will be discussing the salaries to those Georgian potential employees, you have to discuss the net salaries. Because they don't have the understanding of the gross, because the personal income taxes are paid by the companies by itself, and when they receive the salary they don't have the understanding of how much taxes they have already paid to the government. So yeah, this little cultural
It's not just in Georgia.
I know.
I wish people were more aware of how much taxes they actually pay on being.
Absolutely.
But okay, that's actually really cool. So now we covered LLCs, we covered the individual entrepreneur and the work permit changes. Are there some other updates in Georgia
There
law?
is a new update, especially for those who are searching or looking for the residency permits through the investments. Before this year, the threshold of getting the residency was the value of 100,000 USD of the real estate, which was increased to 150,000 USD. I underlined here the value because you might buy the property with the price of, 120, maybe 110 USD, but after the evaluation, or if you keep this land and for some time when the value increases, and with the evaluation of third party, the value of the real estate should be the mentioned amount, and then you can apply for temporary residency card. which is annual, and you can renew it every year, especially considering that the value of the real estate will never go down. If you get it once, you definitely will get it for the next and third and fifth times. So this was the changes of increasing the threshold.
That's actually quite cool. And this is one of the ways how people can actually diversify, not being here, right? They don't have to be present here, but they can have a real estate here.
Absolutely.
They can rent it out and apply for a residency card based on that. And this way they can diversify to have another document.
I would also mention the thing that in Georgia you can buy the real estate through mortgage loan. It doesn't matter of the citizenship or visa type, or you're traveling to Georgia or not traveling at all. The minimum down payment starts from 20%, and the remaining 80 to 70% depends what. With down payment you can get an installments up to 10 years, and with this payment you can get the residency as well. If you are interested, there are some other options, like because we are having the options from other countries. In Cyprus, for example, the threshold is 300,000 euros, but the value of Cyprus is that they have already applied to Schengen zone, so from next year they will be member of Schengen, and all the residencies they would receive this year, they would be automatically becoming a resident of Schengen. So there we have many options in terms of citizenships or residencies, so this is also something to consider if there will be any interest, of course.
Yeah, true. I recall that recently you also started helping your clients when they are interested into passport diversification, and you have some collaboration with some Caribbean countries, right?
Yes. In comparison to any other agencies, we have been traveling to all the Caribbean islands by ourselves. We have met the governments itself or the government agencies who are having the citizenship by investment or residency by investment programs, and looking to what is happening in the world, and as considering us as an international company, and we are not localized in one jurisdiction only. We usually have the clients who are having like a global operations and needs as a person or the companies. So we needed to have it under our portfolio. So yes, we have the options of the Caribbean islands. We have options from Vanuatu, Egypt, Turkey, many other countries. Depends on the client, because some of the countries are giving the easy access to US travelings, because for considering the US citizens, the only option to get out of US tax residency is to get out of the citizenship, and they need to have the easy access to their relatives and to the country itself. So there are some options, for example, from Grenada, where you can have the passport of Grenada and have an easy access to US, but exempt from the most difficult tax residency in the world. So because of this high demand of the clients, we have been developing our services and products for them as well. So that's one of our new services.
Wow, this is really nice. I wanted to once again stress the fact, just what you were mentioning before, the citizenships, that if you want to benefit from Georgia, you can. I'm all helping people to open the premium personal bank account. So you can open a bank account remotely. We can you cannot do it yourself, but you can do it via proxy, like via power of attorney. I'm helping that on my side with for the clients abroad, and then you can request at the bank the mortgage, as you said. I also happy to connect with a relevant real estate agent. Like there are a lot of investment properties here. That's really cool and that's really interesting. And Georgia is rising in terms of tourism and stuff. And it's still like you can get a nice real estate in there are different countries, different locations, different touristic seasons also, like in the mountains, whatever. Like there are some different options, and you can get a mortgage without living here, without being here before. Like this is just so mind-blowing, honestly.
Without declaring the income here, then no income.
Yeah. That's shocking. But
you have to understand the logic of that, because the banks realize that the real estate itself is valued more than any kind of compliance. Of course, I mean, you have to understand that they will make a compliance of KYC of the person, but not very detailed, like this is the standard procedures. And the financial institutions understand that if the client will not pay the loan, they will keep the property, which will be still more valuable than the loan itself. So It's like, analyzing the market of real estate, they do feel that the real estate market is like a very, very strong and developing. And that's why I have mentioned in one of the potential investment fields, it's a real estate related, tourism related businesses and real estate itself.
Yeah, which reminds me also, one can benefit from a good tax for only renting out the real estate. There's a special, it's 5%, right?
Yes.
For rent. So I don't live here. I bought the real estate. I got a mortgage remotely.
So you didn't pay it from your pocket fully? So.
Yeah, and you're renting it out. You benefit from 5% tax on the rental here in Georgia. And on top, you can diversify and have a residency card.
And if you resell it after owning it 2 years only, your capital gain tax will be 0. So you are free from profit making after reselling the property. The thing is that you have to own it legally for more than 2 years. 2 years and 1 day is enough.
What is the tax for owning a real estate yearly?
If you are a tax resident of Georgia, then you have to declare it according to the income you are having, because there is a threshold of 3 ranges and you are taxed according to your income. But if you are not a tax resident of Georgia, then by law you are obliged to declare it wherever you are tax resident. But as soon as Georgia is not part of European Union, this information is not like shared very fast. Though you have to understand that Georgia is part of FATCA and Georgia is part of CRS. So this information might be shared at some point.
Yeah, well, CRS is sharing though your bank account, but not really the real estate. But I get it. I get your point.
As a legal office, I cannot tell you more than this.
I would stop it over here. That was really interesting. Thank you so much, Irakli.
My pleasure. It's always
really
a pleasure, and always happy to have a talk. If there will be any interest coming to us, please contact Sam or us.
I will leave the contact details of yours in the description.
And I will be having to have the free consultations because of the Sam. You just have to mention that you are coming from Sam.
Well, okay, enjoy. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. Thank you.